there's not a monopolistic or monolithic, rather, block of elder folk. They're different, just like we are. We accept that we differ politically. We accept that we differ physically and what we value, how we act. That doesn't stop when you become old. And with COVID, it's just been unbelievable how folks so easily say, okay, not only that you're killing grandma, which to me is just such a preposterous non-argument, if you advocate against lockdowns or mask mandates, because we know that that's the most vulnerable population. But to act like all old people want that goes to show how much people don't know about older people. They don't. A lot of them are stubborn. A lot of them don't like this. But most importantly, you have to understand what's happening right now. And what's happening right now is that people or older folk are being forced into bubbles in a lot of areas, not being able to see their children, not being even incentivized, or not necessarily incentivized, like it's frowned upon to see their children, even if they're dying in hospitals anyway, right? See, like I said earlier, people die. Believe it or not, they die of things that are not COVID related, especially older folk, other related things. And to sit here and be like, okay, people die, and therefore you cannot, or COVID, right? This is what it is, right? You may transmit this disease to someone, and they may have a severe reaction, and they may die. And this is why, when we talk about percentage rates and survival rates and all of this, why it's so important to talk about percentage is because we're talking about, or how it impacts IFR. We're talking about risk and whether or not they should be assumed. Now, I believe that every individual has the right to assume everything, whatever it is they do, everything's a risk. We're not getting out of this alive. 0% fucking survival rate of the human life as far as the individual life. Nobody's getting out on the other side alive. You know what I'm saying? We gotta die at some point. That's just the reality of the situation. And when we sit here and assess risk, there's nothing really that we do that has a 100% survival rate anyway. Now, I understand the people that say, well, this is unique because you're talking about spreading the disease, not necessarily slipping down the stairs and bumping your head and then bleeding to death. I get that, but that risk existed before COVID. Viral pneumonia, was that not a thing? That there had no cure for if it wasn't associated with influenza. Did people not die from influenza anyway? Colds, infections, bacterial infections, viral infections. Did people not die before COVID-19? Did we not, as individuals, spread about certain things that if the wrong person got it, they may have a severe reaction? Of course, it wasn't this much attention on it. So now everybody acts as if this is new in the sense that, yeah, the virus they may think it's a novel or whatever, SARS-CoV-2, or whatever. I get that. But to act like that risk wasn't assumed before COVID, you're being dishonest, because it was. So the problem here that I have is that you're treating these old folk as if they have zero agency. Now, I talked about my grandma. I saw my grandma when I saw her at Christmas. It wasn't like I had a choice, right? I guess technically I did, but that's what she desired. And my grandma desired that. That's exactly what she's going to get. She's 80 years old. She could die from anything. Now, am I going to sit here and have to live with the fact that, okay, if she passed from something else, which is absolutely what could happen, I didn't get a chance to see her recently? That could have been a thing. It won't because I've seen her. But also, that's not how she wanted to live. She didn't want to sit up there and be in a bubble for the rest of her life, not seeing her family, not seeing her kids, her grandchildren. That's not how she wants to live. And that's a risk that's worth assuming. But most importantly, to the elder folk who understand the impact this is causing, a lot of these older folk don't want to sit here and deal with the fact that, well, but for the protection of myself, I will ruin the livelihoods of my kids. And to me, for you guys, some of you guys are younger folk and have kids as well. You do anything for your children. Anything, a lot of you. And I totally understand. Definitely as you age, you've lived your life. You've lived your life. And then when I get to that age, if I had to decide between risking trying to save me from a virus versus destroying my kids' future, I'll take the risk with the virus. And there's a lot of old folk that are like that, older folk that are like that. And that's their risk to assume. But these authoritarian individuals, very authoritarian, like they mask their authoritarianism with these humanitarian efforts. So they care so much about people. Look at me, and then dancing nurses on TikTok talking about survival rate and how it's disrespectful to talk about it. And we care so much about the old people and the vulnerable people and the people with comorbidities. And what they don't seem to understand is that they are making the decision on behalf of a multitude of different cultural elder folk. And they don't all agree. Talked about the stubborn old man. Some of y'all got grandfathers like that who've experienced hard times, right? Actual hard times. Like living through Jim Crow era, right? Living through wars. And you mean to tell me that they all agree that, well, yeah, we should shut everything down just to save me? No. They want to live their lives. They want to see their family. And if that means taking a risk, yes, they'll take it. They'll gladly take it. To act like they all agree with you because you want to like sort of stand on their in some cases their graves, but in a lot of cases just this virtue signaling is what it is. You want to be seen as this altruistic, protective person. So you, instead of not understanding that you're making a decision on behalf of all these people, you got folks dying in hospitals, unable to see their family because you're making decisions for them on their behalf. And some people just don't want to live that way. And that's the problem with the authoritarian, is that he or she never wants to come to terms with the fact. Because they think they know what's best for everybody. And that's the problem. The frauds. I encourage y'all to actually get out there and actually talk to people. Especially other folk. And you'll be surprised when it comes to this COVID thing. They don't all agree with what it is you're doing.